Seriously, though, how cool is it to have a goaltender? How dope is it that you have a dude that just shows up and posts a 940 save percentage in his first 5 games as an Av, a 971 this evening for Mackenzie Blackwood on the very day that he signs a 5-year, $5.25 million average annual basis extension. He is the goaltender of the future here in Colorado as the Avs skate to a 4-1 victory coming off of the break in Utah against the Hockey Club. Alex Ryan alongside your network host this evening on Altitude Sports Radio, AM 950, Mark Springer. This is Between the Pipes presented by our friends at Safeway. Thanks so much for waiting late into your Friday night. We'll do a little quick one here as you guys are headed off to bed and just recap what was a sensational effort for Mackenzie Blackwood. We get dueling hat tricks on both bookends of the Christmas break, both from Finns, one from Mikko Rantanen a couple of days before the Avs celebrated the Christmas holiday. And then here on the 27th, Arturi Lehky gets his first in the NHL.
You know what's funny? I was just looking at this because I had the Avs schedule up. And so the last 10 games for Colorado, last 10 games, the Avs have allowed no more than 2 goals in their last 10 games. Now, funny enough, game number 1 of this 10-game stretch was Alexander Georgiev's last start.
Is that the Detroit game?
It was the 2-1 win in Detroit. Then Wedgwood pitched a shutout in New Jersey. Wedgwood allowed 2 in Pittsburgh. Oh, no, wait, no, there's 2. I ignored the 2 losses. Never mind. I should look at the L and not the – see, it's because
there's the Carolina stinker in there that Wedgwood started.
That was before. That was before the Georgiev start.
Got it.
Nonetheless, I mean, the goaltender, you can say it's the last 4 games. You haven't allowed more than 2 goals. That's for sure. And yeah, they got their guy. They extended their guy. I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, there's a world where a year or 2 from now, we look back on this contract extension that they gave Mackenzie Blackwood and say, holy shit, that was a steal. I mean, that was just a freaking highway robbery.
Yeah, 5.25 is ridiculous. When you and I were talking about this, I think the first one that I quoted was $5.5 million. I think you could get it done 5 years, 5.5. When I was on with Vic this morning, filling in for Brett, I went as high as $6 million. I was like, there's no way that you can turn that down, because as you and I did a couple of days ago, we went over all of those contracts for goalies going into next season. And when you get into that $6 million range, you get into the, well, have you competed for a Vezina? Have you won a Stanley Cup championship? Those are the Bennington numbers, the UC Soroses, the Sorokins, Jake Ottingers, Linus Ullmarks, right? And we knew Mackenzie Blackwood wasn't there. But to get him at 5 years, 5.25, that going into next season, if you remove Carey Price from the equation because he is essentially retired spring, he's the 17th highest paid goalie in the NHL right now. Right now. And it seems like you're betting on the come up with him. You say there's a distinct world where it could be one of the biggest steals in the league. I think it's already, you already have outperformed the contract. If he is just a statistically average goalie in the NHL for the next 5 years, the contract is already a win. If he is above average, it is one of the biggest steals in the league. If he brings them to a cup championship, to have him at 5.25 in the year 2029 is robbery.
I was looking at Grubauer's contract the other night. He'll be making a little more than Joey Decord, because Blackwood's 5.25, Decord is 5. I think Grubauer's like 5.9. I just Googled, check this out. I just Googled Darcy Kemper's contract, the one that he signed with the Capitals, and now he's on the Kings. The same deal.
It's the same deal.
It's the exact same deal that Blackwood got today. But, account for inflation. Kemper signed that a couple years ago. But it is the same deal. And, dude, Blackwood's 28. And I keep going back to, like, this dude was one of, if not the best goaltending prospect when he was getting spot starts for the Devils several years ago. Like, I could feel it. I was like, man, this dude might be something. He really might be something. And it's funny, now you look at New Jersey, they're one of the best teams in the league right now. They got 51 points after a win tonight. They wish they had him. Like, Jacob Markstrom's been nice, but damn, Blackwood was the prototype. He was the profile. He was the next. He was the future, but it didn't work out. But then he kind of gets like he gets almost like it's a minor league assignment, but it's in the NHL. You're playing for the Sharks, but you're playing in the NHL. Now you have no pressure on you. That's when he figured things out. That's when he kind of got to mess around.
When he got healthy.
He gets healthy too. He broke his face with the Devils. That's why he's missing those teeth. But then you look at his numbers with San Jose, and it's like, oh, damn, is he becoming what he was supposed to be? And I think Colorado has been targeting him, even going back to last season, just they're keeping their eye on the entire goaltending market. But I think he is maybe number one on that list, knowing where he's at in his career, that his contract is coming up, that he would be a trade candidate for San Jose. They got out in front of it. Yes, the Avs had goaltending woes, and maybe that expedited the process. But I also think they didn't want another team getting their hands on Mackenzie Blackwood. They go snatch him. They give up somebody they like. Whenever they give up somebody they like, they extend these dudes. Kovalenko, Byram, Barron, etc. They wanted to extend this dude. And I mean, if he can play at the level that he's capable of playing of, and he, quite frankly, has been doing that all season in San Jose, it just got overlooked. He's doing it now with Colorado. This is going to be a steal. This is going to be an absolute steal of a contract. Getting out in front of it, too, before, I mean, he's primed to go on a tear here with the Avs, where had he hit the open market in the summer, this would have gotten to $6-7+ million.
Right. If the Avs have gotten to where they expect to be this year, which is competing for a Stanley Cup championship, winning Western Conference titles, and being in the mix there, he then talks himself into 5 years, 6.5, 5 years, 7, because that's where the contracts are going right now. And as we stated a couple of shows ago, that's the level of contract that if you get to those games, those Western Conference finals, and winning them, getting to Stanley Cup finals, or being in the Vezina Trophy conversation, which Blackwood won't be this year. He might be over the course of this 5-year deal. Who knows? That's when you start to get into that stratosphere. I think it was a masterful work of art from Chris McFarland. As you said, the Avs, when they give up players that they like, as you just mentioned, Spring, Byram, Hellison, guys that they moved in the 2022 year, Barron to go after a cup championship, Kovalenko obviously this season. They like to extend those players. You move on from Byram, you get Middlestat, you extend him immediately. You knew this was coming down. I just didn't know how quickly it was going to be, or if they were going to have to overpay. It is a little bit of a gamble, right? Because you are betting on something that you haven't seen yet. And that's Mackenzie Blackwood being able to be a true number one in this league. And now you're paying him to do it. However, the returns on it have been sensational so far. I think he's the truth. If he stays healthy, all he has to be is an average goalie for this contract to be okay. That's it. And he's better than an average goalie.
Yeah, no, there is a risk gamble element to it, in that, you're giving a guy who was making just over $2 million, now just over $5 million. And he's only played a handful of games for you, but like I said, they've been keeping their eye on this guy, and like, they tried developing Onanen, right? They tried Georgiev. They had this room, and it didn't work. And it's specifically Onanen, though. Like, I thought coming into this season, Onanen would get gradually more infused into the rotation in preparation for him having a much bigger role next year, when Georgiev was somewhere else, because he would have signed somewhere else no matter what. And now Onanen is either your starter, or he's in a platoon with a Wedgwood or some other veteran. This is before Wedgwood even comes into the fold. So who knows, who that could have been and what we thought this was going to be, a couple months ago. And it's funny because freaking Eustace Onanen, man, had another great start. He had another great start for the Predators. The only times the Predators are doing anything nowadays is when freaking Eustace Onanen is starting for him. They'll bring in freaking Stamkos, Marchessault. No, the key is now having Onanen in net. So he just had a 22 save on 24 shots against, a 917 save percentage win, overtime win against the Kings before the holiday break. He had to play tonight because UC Saros was atrocious in St. Louis. But, I thought the idea was, they drafted on it all those years ago. He was progressing well on the trajectory that they liked. But then they saw they weren't only scouting their own room, they're scouting the whole league. And they saw Blackwood out there, and they thought, now this dude's about to turn 28 years old, and we think he's unheralded and being overlooked right now. So while I think Onanen will progress well with Nashville, one way to develop your goaltending is to just go freaking trade for one. And that's what they did. They said, screw the draft. Here's a guy who New Jersey drafted for us, who San Jose developed for us. Now we'll pluck him at the perfect time. It's all Blackwood's career trajectory is lining up perfectly with the Avs goaltending needs.
And now exactly what's happening with the Avs is this. There's an organizational shift in goaltending mentality. They now realize when you are paying out the wazoo for your top players, and you're going to have to continue to do that, right? Nathan McKinnon, 12.6. Cale Makar is going to be up in 2 years. Mikko Rantanen is going to have to be signed between $12 and $14 million in the offseason. You then have to make the decision. Are you going to continue to try and hope that you find a diamond in the rough every single 2 or 3 years with your goalies, then keep your room under $4 million? Or are you going to go find the next number one where you can get on a cap-friendly contract? It complicates things slightly for the Avs going into the offseason. The goalie room is now $2.5 million more than it was at the beginning of the season. And as we know, every cent counts for the Avs against the cap. Next year, the cap could rise anywhere between $4 and $5 million and get up to 92 or 93. Right now, it sits at $88 million league-wide. Rantanen is going to command anywhere between 12 and 14, which means you have to find an extra $4 million, maybe a little bit less, for him in the offseason. $2 million of that is going to come from that cap increase. The other $2 million is now going to have to come from the roster because of what you've done in terms of investing in both Scott Wedgwood, because Wedgie is under contract next year, and now you've invested for the next 5 seasons in Mackenzie Blackwood. In order to keep Rantanen, Blackwood, Wedgwood all on the team, it likely is going to be a Jonathan Drouin casualty and maybe a player on the back end having to move on to make room against the cap.
Well, yeah, no, they've been doing this thing where we thought maybe it would continue with Onanen being cheap next year, that they would, whether it was Wedgwood, who's like $2 million or whatever, someone like that the room would just stay super cheap. And it still is pretty cheap. I mean, like Blackwood's not, I mean, Shesterkin's getting $11.5 million per, so it's less than half of that. That's still cheap, but for the Avs, it's pricey. For the this is the most the Avs have spent on a goaltender in this window. But they saw a guy who they said, no, this is worth it. Like, this is the time to pull the trigger and to finally give ourselves peace of mind for not just next season, not this season, not just next season, but several seasons, to shore it up, to lock it down at an expensive price for them based on what they've been spending on the room, but a cheap price league-wide overall, and a price that I think we'll look back on and say, freaking bargain. Now, you mentioned Mikko Rantanen, and it's funny because we talked about this before the break, and I had brought it up, and I was even after the show, I was like, am I jumping the gun here on like they gotta extend Blackwood? Like that's what I was saying. Like you gotta go extend Blackwood. Like go do it right now. You may as well. He looks great. He's got the profile. You gave up Kovalenko. Find a way to get this done, especially before the price goes up as the season goes on. And they did it. They knocked that out lickety split. They did it like it was because one, they know how important it is to finally get that stability with a true number one netminder that they like. But also we're not talking about spending, 11.5 Shesterkin money, or if we're talking forward skaters here, $14 million, $12 to $14 million Mikko Rantanen money. These are more manageable numbers. But the fact that they got Blackwood done like freaking that, and Rantanen, it's still going on. What do you make of that?
It's a bigger, tougher to move deal, right? Like 5.25 is easy to fit under the cap. You can look at the cap increase next year and go, if this is the only deal that we make, we can bring the same team forward next year because of the cap increase, because of what we're already paying. And this is Chris McFarland's thought process in terms of our goaltending room right now. The extension of a $12 to $14 million player is so difficult to factor in because of the unknown with Gabriel Landeskog as well. I think everything on the Rantanen contract hinges on whether or not Gabe Landeskog's career is over. And you're going to figure that out sometime, likely around the trade deadline. If it's done, you get to use that LTIR. That money goes to Mikko. If he's not done, then it becomes really difficult to fit Mikko's contract extension in. And that's when I think that I look at the defensive core and I go, there's a couple of players that are making north of $4 million that you're going to have to make a decision on, right? And both of those guys are valuable to this team, one of which is Josh Manson, is one of your biggest, if not your most physical, not one of your biggest. He's your biggest and most physical defenseman on the team. And the other one is Sam Girard, who has had a sensational season this year. You would have to move on from one of those two contracts to fit Mikko in next year if Gabe is in the fold. It's going to be tough, man. If he wants $14 million, I don't think the Avs are going to give him 14. Another team will, but they'll only be able to give 7. I have this feeling that 12.5 is going to get it done. 8 years, 12.5, sign on the dotted line, and you're taken care of for life at $100 million.
Well, I find it interesting that over these last few games, we've seen a new top line. Mikko Rantanen down to line 2. Up to line 1, Valeri Nichushkin. And, man, okay, you want to pay Mikko Rantanen 12.5, that's fine.
He's worth it. That is a fair contract in my eyes, without a doubt.
Okay, but Valeri Nichushkin is making half that. And dude, the top line they were all +3s tonight. Nichushkin had the great assist on Lehkynen's second goal. Nichushkin's fitting in like a glove on that top line. It really is like Mikko who. At least in terms of like you can put Val up and it's the same damn thing. It really is. Val's every bit the player Nichushkin is. I don't care. I know Mikko scores goals, but Val's every bit the player he is, and he does things that Mikko doesn't do. I don't know. Is there something there with, Val's up on the top line, and maybe it's paid off in the last 3 games? I just wonder if there is some sort of barrier right now between what Mikko wants and what the Avs know his true value is.
You've seen them go to these lengths with Mikko before, though. This contract extension took forever to get him to sign. The one that he's currently playing out now. Same thing happened with Gabriel Landeskog. It went all the way up until that final date where you thought he was going to be a free agent, and then the Avs re-sign him and they extend him for that 8-year deal. I just think that they're waiting to get some clarity here. I think that they're going to wait this thing out. Rantanen's a big part of this team. As I will always say, I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. 50 goals don't grow on trees. 100-point scorers do not grow on trees. Those are things that you should not take for granted as a hockey fan. Like, you wait years to find multiple 100-point scorers on back-to-back seasons, to find 50-goal scorers in this league in the draft. They don't come around all that often. More often than not, you get a Tyson Jost at number 10 rather than Mikko Rantanen, who is a bona fide Hall of Fame hockey player. Don't let those guys go away. If it's 14, you might have to. Your hands will be tied because Cale Makar is coming up next. If it's 12 and a half, you sign it and you run away. I don't think there's a big issue. I think they're just trying to get some clarity on the cap situation next year. They're trying to get clarity on what Gabe Landeskog looks like, and they will find a way to come to terms.
Well, the fact that they were able to hammer out a Blackwood deal like it was nothing tells me that Mikko wants more than what the Avs think is fair. It's got to be. It's got to be.
I don't think these things, they're not competing deals. They're not competing deals.
No, I understand. One's north of 10. That's Rantanen. Blackwood's $5 million, but still.
Right, but also the other thing with Blackwood, there's a difference in the two players, right? Blackwood has never proven it. Blackwood has never been the type of player that Mikko Rantanen is in this league. Had he been, he'd be looking at a Shesterkin contract, right? Had he been a guy who had led the league in wins and save percentage and been a Vezina Trophy finalist, a guy who's been in the conversation for all these awards, much like Mikko Rantanen has as a forward over the last 3 seasons, it would be, I don't think that conversation is the same thing. I think Mackenzie Blackwood saw a deal in front of him that gives him his bag, that gives him security through age 33 after coming off of many years of injuries, and went, that's the deal that I was hoping to look for. And maybe in 3 years from right now, I'm going to be kicking myself in the behind because I'll be a Vezina finalist and a Stanley Cup champion with the Avs. But Rantanen isn't negotiating from that space.
Well, and Mikko, just he can, you mentioned his numbers, and he can say, look at my numbers, 50 goal scorer, all these points. Draisaitl just reset the market. Rantanen is McKinnon's Draisaitl. 2 things though. One, the Avs, like, I'm sure if the cap wasn't a thing, yeah, they'd love to pay Mikko. And ultimately, will they? I would say probably, but just hear me out, okay? Yeah, so, his numbers, his stats over a long career have said, yeah, I do deserve north of what McKinnon is making. But the Avs have to, they have to keep everything flexible. They don't want to put too much in one pot. And really what I'm getting at here is I just want to bring up this idea. Just want to illustrate this idea. Okay, if you took Mikko Rantanen away from Nathan McKinnon, like they have the last couple games, and hell, you just took him off the Avs. If you took him off the Avs and you put him on another team without that bona fide superstar next to him, be completely honest with yourself.
He's done it here in Colorado. What are you talking about?
For like 2 weeks, he did it one time. So when you look at what is he really as a player versus, holy crap, we're going to give him more than Nate. I'm just telling you, man, this deal would be done by now, like Blackwood's is, if he was truly worth that.
Springer, in 46 games without Nathan McKinnon in his career, Mikko Rantanen has 22 goals and 32 assists and a plus-minus of plus 22. He is a 52-point scorer in 46 games with a plus-minus of plus 22 in 46 games without that bona fide superstar next to him. Listen, he's not Nathan McKinnon. He's not, and he's not worth more than that. But to tell me that he can't carry a line by himself is nuts.
Let me give you another example. And there are differences here. Some of it is just the human body. But the Nuggets just gave Jamal Murray that big old contract extension. Now, I think Jamal's legs...
If you're about to compare Jamal Murray and Mikko Rantanen, I might end the stream right now.
Why?
Because Mikko Rantanen is a first ballot Hall of fucking Famer, and Jamal Murray isn't. He's not even in the conversation.
Okay, Jamal Murray is when he's been at his best is a hell of a freaking scorer.
He's not even an all-star.
A lot of that was tearing his ACL and missing a whole fucking season.
Dude.
Bro, don't tell me that Mikko Rantanen is truly on the same level of Nathan MacKinnon. He's not. Bro, Nichushkin is more effective night in and night out than Mikko Rantanen is. Now, when you're an agent, when you're going to negotiate your contracts, you bring up the stats, all of that stuff. I get it. But when you watch the dudes night in, night out, I'm sorry, but I think that the reason this deal is not done yet is because the numbers, the empty net hat trick goals that Mikko scores don't compute to we need it. Or else the deal would be done.
Him being top 8 all time in playoff points per game doesn't make like that's I don't understand what we're doing here. He's not Nathan MacKinnon. I know that. He's not, and I don't think he should be paid more than Nathan MacKinnon. But 12 and a half is very reasonable. And I think it's blasphemous to put Jamal Murray's name in the same.
I don't think it's blasphemous at all. I don't think it's blasphemous at all. No, and look, the NHL is different than the NBA too. In order to get into the All-Star, that's a group of 5, right? The NHL's forward line's deep. There are some great scorers in the NBA. Mikko Rantanen is a good scorer. But when I'm talking about in a tight cap league, paying a dude more than Nate, it's tough. That's tough. I just don't know if he's that player. And I feel like if the Avs felt that way, it'd be done.
Mikko Rantanen has 1.247 points per game in the playoffs. He is in the same breath.
How many goals did Val Nichushkin just score before he unceremoniously left the team? 8 and 7 games, 7 and 8 games.
He had half
of me.
He had a great playoff. He's also the main reason why the Avalanche didn't seriously compete for a Stanley Cup championship in the last 2 years.
Mikko was out there in the playoffs. They still had him. But Nichushkin was gone. Who was more important? Look,
I'm blown away right now. I'm blown away.
I'm not saying this or that. I'm just saying the deal would be done now, just like Blackwood's is. So now it's making me think. Like, dude, if Mikko was on the Ducks, if he went and signed with the Ducks or whoever, dude, he's not scoring 50 goals. He's not taking games over. I see it out there. I see his play. He's not doing it. I want to see it now. I want to see him go somewhere just so I can prove that I see with Mikko Rantanen, dude, he just doesn't take games over.
So like was Evgeny Malkin not worth it in Pittsburgh then?
Yeah, he's playing with Sid.
But
it helps when you're playing next to Sid, when you're playing next to Nate.
So Gino wasn't worth the money then.
Look, you're playing next to Sid.
First Hall of Famer.
I think Malkin is a better player. I think Malkin's a better player than Rantanen. I'll say that at their peaks.
Malkin's peak, yes.
At their peaks, yeah. Malkin was tremendous.
Well, Malkin had MVPs. And he won a Conn Smythe as well. And Rantanen hasn't done that. But he's worth every penny. He's worth every.
You can't tell me he's worth every penny.
Oh, he is.
Nathan MacKinnon's worth more than him. If I'm Nathan MacKinnon,
of course he's worth more than. Again, when I bring up the playoff performance right now, MacKinnon is a better playoff performer. He's a better regular season performer. Therefore, he deserves more money. But to tell me that Mikko Rantanen and Jamal Murray are the same guy when
I'm not saying they're the same guy. I'm saying what happened. The Nuggets just paid Jamal, and look what's happening. Look what's happening. If they give Mikko this massive deal, man, you better keep that pace up that you've been on as you approach age 30. You better. I mean, that's a lofty expectation. That's a high level that Mikko's going to have to continue to play at. I'm not 100% sold that he will. I'm not.
He's 27. He stays healthy. He's never injured. He's not the same. He's never injured. He's never injured. And and honestly, Mikko's as consistent a player that the Avs have.
Makar's their second best player.
He is the second best player, and I don't know what Cale is going to command in his next deal.
I'm telling you, to me, there's a debate. I'll argue
Let Mikko Rantanen go. You will be looking in the draft for the next Mikko Rantanen for the next 2 decades.
Or you could go sign 2 $5 million players.
If you're gonna, so you want a Ross Colton and a Yanni Gord? Those match up. That's Mikko Rantanen.
Look, dude, $14 million is a ton of, or even 12.5 is a ton of money. If the money wasn't an issue, I'd agree with you. But money is an issue. And can you live up to that? I mean, to be one of the highest paid players in the league. I'm not so sure. Now, I think this deal ultimately gets done. But there's a reason it hasn't gotten done yet.
So is he a better player than William Nylander?
Yeah, I'd say so. Close.
Is he better than Jonathan Huberdeau?
Oh, yeah, well, Huberdeau's fallen off.
Is he better than Elias Pettersson? I think he is.
Yeah, Pettersson's kind of plateaued with his development.
Is he better than Artemi Panarin? I think he is.
That's another player, though. Like, look what's going on with the Rangers, man. Look, Artemi Panarin is a very good player, but when he's your best player... And that's what someone's going to find if they sign him. If another team signs him to $14 million, you are the next New York Rangers. It'll be all fun and games for a year. Woohoo! And then you will find yourself under 500 being like, holy crap, we paid Mikko Rantanen $14 million per. Where's the returns on this? I thought we were winning cups here. Right, you're going to find that that's not going to happen. Now, as long as Mikko Rantanen is playing on the Avalanche alongside Nathan MacKinnon, yeah, he can win. But if he's... So that's what I'm saying. This market on Mikko Rantanen is skewed. Like, he is going to get more money than he should because he has accelerated his point production playing on this team.
Bandit asks, do defensemen get the same as forwards? Often, no, they don't. There's a few guys that do jump into that conversation. The Erik Karlsson contract is $11.5 million that runs through next year. There are some outliers. The Drew Doughty contract is an $11 million contract that runs through at the end of next season as well. So there's not a lot of those dudes that jump up. The most recent one, who's only 3 years through his deal, is Rasmus Dahlin at $11 million. And Cale's probably going to look at that deal and go, I think I want that one. I think I want the $12 million or the $11.5 million. Cale can get there, but often, no, you do not pay a defenseman as much as a forward in this league just because of what production means to the front offices. They're going to get it done. I think it's between 12.5 and 13. And with Mikko being, 27 right now? How old is Rantanen?
28.
All right, so 28, signed to an 8-year deal. You know the last 2 years of that contract are going to be crap. You would need to see another 3 seasons or 4 seasons of at least 40 goals, another 2 seasons of 100 points, and a cup. And then it's worth it. I think you just said it. As long as Mikko Rantanen is playing alongside Nathan MacKinnon, the Avs are going to be cup contenders. So why upset that apple cart? When you don't have to. I went through the numbers earlier today. You don't have to. You can part ways with Josh Manson or Sam Girard this offseason and sign Mikko and even have Gabe Landeskog on the roster.
Well, it just makes things tighter. It makes things tighter. And look, there is absolutely a debate to be had. Don't tell me there's not a debate.
Clearly.
Don't tell me there's not a debate to be had. I get it. The chalk argument is Mikko Rantanen's great. Look at the production. Look at the points. Look at the goals. That's the chalk argument. I get it. I'm saying we actually go, it's not even under the hood, just using your eyeballs, watching the games. I'm telling you, man, that is a hell of an investment that is going to make your cap even tighter over the next few years. And I'm just saying that's why a deal has not gotten done yet.
I would just like to read this list off to you. the last 50 goal scorer for every organization in the league. And this is why I'm telling you that if you let Mikko Rantanen walk, just because you think that he's not that important, and I'll always go back to it, 50 goal scorers don't grow on trees. Let's go through every NHL team. The last 50 goal scorer that the Anaheim Ducks had came in 2010 when Corey Perry did it once. They've been looking for a 50 goal scorer for the next decade and a half. The last time that Utah/Phoenix had it was 1996. The last time that the Boston Bruins had one was 1993, the year I was born. The last time the Sabres had one was 1992 with Alexander Mogilny and Pat LaFontaine. The last time that the Hurricanes had a 50-goal scorer was 1981. Franchises search for decades to find that guy. They're not going to let him walk. I just went through I just went alphabetically through the four teams. The closest a team was 14 years.
All right. Well, look, and again, all I know is that tonight, Valeri Nichushkin, assuming Rantanen's role on the top line, had an assist. Lehkonen had a hat trick. Mikko had 3 assists. Or excuse me, Nate had 3 assists. Mikko down on that second line now. Playing with Casey Middlestat and Ross Colton. He hasn't elevated Casey and Ross. Casey and Ross have no points in their last few games since Mikko's been playing with them. I love Mikko Rantanen. The numbers check out.
Yeah, they do.
But
and you know what? In spring, the beauty of that Nichushkin contract is what? It's maybe the biggest steal in the NHL right now.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Because you have maybe the biggest steal in the NHL in a forward contract, and you maybe just signed Mackenzie Blackwood to what could be the biggest steal for a goalie over the next 5 years. Chris McFarland and Joe Sakic being wizards allow you to overpay for Mikko Rantanen in the future.
But just one more time. If the Avalanche thought, if the front office thought that Mikko was worth the number that his agent has presented to them, they would have said yes. But they did not. They haven't done that yet. They have not. If they thought, yep, Mikko, you are worth X, whatever the agent said, this is what Mikko wants, they would have said, we agree, here it is. But they haven't done that yet.
No, they haven't. All right, Spring. I said we were going to do a 20-minute show. We're pushing up on 40. That was fun.
Hey, Avs win.
Hey, Avs won. Yeah, 4-1. We're happy. This show started off with Spring and I being so excited about the goaltending situation and then screaming at each other for the first time since God knows when.
Well, because it goes back to our last show where we were talking about how, they should extend Blackwood. And holy crap, what happens if I asked in the last show, what if they extend Blackwood before Rantanen? Like, dude just gets here and they extend him before Rantanen. That's exactly what happened. And then we went off on Mikko. So it was fun.
All right, Spring. It's a long night for you, long day for me as well. Let's get out of here. Avs play next on New Year's Eve on Tuesday against the Winnipeg Jets. That's a 6 p.m. start. Spring and I will be back here sometime around 9 or 9:30. Actually, remains to be seen whether or not Spring and I will be doing a New Year's Eve show. But as of right now, that's a yes. Thank you guys so much for staying up with us. I'm going to go slam a beer and then go to bed. Spring, despite screaming at you, I do love you and thank you so much.
No, it's all good natured. It's all good nature. I don't back down though. I'm here for these fights. Let's go. I'm like Nathan McKinnon and Barrett Hayton. I mean, I'll drop the gloves.
It's amazing. We just did a whole show and screamed at each other and didn't mention Nate getting into a fight.
Well, because there are other things, you know. It was, by the way, I mean, that was a nothing. Nate was trying to protect his knuckles at all costs. He knows that those make money. I think he might have snuck a left hook in at the end. But Nate, I appreciate the passion. He knew in his own mind, he was like, shit, what have I gotten myself into? Don't throw a punch. Don't throw a punch. That was the fight.
He just fucking hates that franchise, man. I don't know what it is about
Chucking
Utah.
helmets at him.
If he wants to protect his knuckles, he just got to go in with the elbows, just swinging left.
Yeah, he could have done that.
All right, we're getting out of here. World Junior Showcase, or not Showcase, World Junior Championships is going on right now. So if you're itching for some hockey this weekend, Team USA is back on the ice tomorrow. The Latvians beat Team Canada tonight 3-2 in a shootout. They were plus 4,000 dogs. So WJC hockey is alive and well. I'll be watching a bunch of that, and we'll be back on Tuesday. So for spring, I'm Raj, our friends at Safeway. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.